Welcome to Raw and Refined, the Gentleman's Hour, where we're going to have conversation with middle-aged black men about what's going on. We welcome you to listen, comment, and like, and hopefully encourage others to join for future conversations as well. We always like to start off with a toast, and with that toast, it's because we are gentlemen and we do it raw and refined.
So, GK, why don't you start us off with the beverage for today?
Yep. So I think I've introduced this beverage before. It is one of my favorites. It's from Benny's, local liquor store in Chicago, and they always have it on sale. It's unbelievable. It's actual champagne, and as you know, champagne has to be from a particular region of France to actually be called champagne. Otherwise, it's called sparkling wine.
Wine, yeah,
Uh-huh.
But
unless
this
it's
is
French
actually
champagne.
champagne from the Champagne region of France. And it's like really, really inexpensive as champagne goes. So this is what I tend to drink when I'm not drinking mezcal. So this is a drink. I am opening the bottle right now, and you're going to hear the pop sound in just a moment.
There it
There you go.
is.
And so it's M. Haslinger and Fee. And the funny thing is, we all took French, so there's probably a better enunciation of it than the one I just gave.
Right.
Yeah, that did
But
not sound French at all.
Right.
M. Haslinger et Fee. Uh, I think John, you took all 4 years of French, so you'd know
Right.
better than either one of us. So, but this is the drink. It's a good, inexpensive champagne.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Well,
I'm gonna keep
salute. I have
Salute.
uh, I have prosecco and a
salute.
Yeti. So I know y'all talked about that before, but I'm still in the we're still in the final stages of rehabbing the crib. So, stuff ain't quite where it's supposed to be yet. So I know where this thing is all the time. So
Hey, it keeps it the right temperature all the time, right? It's all
Exactly.
good.
it keeps it nice
Exactly.
and cold and keeps the fizz, yeah, brother.
You, you keep sipping how you like sipping, okay?
Yeah. Only problem is it's got a big straw. So you got to
There
be
you go.
careful.
There you go. That's right. That is right. I'm gonna live through y'all on this one tonight, so I'm gonna have to figure out what my sparkling choice will be come the next time this comes up. All right.
It's gonna come up pretty much anytime Greg is the one making the choice. So
That's true. That is true.
yeah.
Now that
Pretty
we
much.
see this, right, right,
So I
right,
put it out there. One of y'all need to come up with the beverage choice. John said, "Well, I don't really have a thought in mind," and Greg said, "Well, I know. Let's throw that." So
right.
you're gonna get hit with
That's
the
true.
go-to. That's the go-to for them. So
That's right. That's right.
get you a choice in stock, there, brother.
I'm gonna go on and
Um,
get me some.
mhm.
Yes, sir.
I need to
Okay,
find
no, I
that one
don't
that
want
you
to do
talking
that.
about.
Hmm.
You got to text it to me to the group. Put it in the group so I know which one you talking
Yeah,
about.
Greg, the one you
Yep.
talking with, the one, yeah,
I will do that going forward.
yeah. So let's jump on into this. So, welcome listeners. It's been a minute. Life's been lifing, and so we've been away for more than a minute. Uh, but we're back, and so today we kind of a double whammy for you. Uh, we got two topics, two themes that we're gonna touch on both of them, and they're kind of interconnected and kind of not, but you know, both topics are about preparing the next generation and challenging long-standing assumptions. I guess you could say the two topics for today are the importance of mentoring for Black men and our role as older men in guiding our younger brothers. So,
You did say
mentoring.
older and not old, right?
I said older. I said
Right.
as older. I said
Right.
as older
Because I
men.
Right.
didn't hear it, that just shows that I'm actually saying hearing old. But
Yeah, no, that's because as you're getting older, your hearing is getting worse.
Right.
A sign that you are an older man. No, but no, yes. So guiding our younger brothers, and the second one is whether college should still be viewed as the required path for success in the Black community. So two different perspectives, both tied together, or two different topics tied to this notion of preparing the next generation. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And like I said, we've been away for a minute, so we're excited. Got a lot of stuff to try and unpack in these two topics, and looking forward to it. So I'm going to hand it over to John.
I appreciate that, Rick. So, yeah, so we're going to start it off talking about mentorship and from that lead into higher education and what that may look like as well. So, mentorship has always been a curious topic for me for sure. I didn't really understand mentorship until honestly, till after I'd already gotten into medicine. And I look back, I don't recall really having a mentor coming up through school age, times, college. I again can't recall that person that I would have identified as that's my mentor, someone I would have run to for questions or guidance or, how do I get to my next path in life? I just thought that I had some things assumed on how I needed to get there, but really didn't have that professor or someone then. Medical school, again, just did not feel or see except for maybe my program director at the time was one that if I looked back and could identify as a possible mentor would have been that. But I really didn't understand mentorship until after already being in practice of medicine. And it made me think about how much I felt I may have missed out on. And, how I realized if I had had
Yeah,
mentors throughout my steps of growing up, I may be at a better understanding, a better state of things. I'm doing well. Things are going great, but I think there's still probably more that I probably missed out on without, quote, having a mentor. And sometimes I'm approached to be a mentor, for medical students or residents coming up, or even young docs that are coming in, or through my fraternity, we try to mentor the newer members that come in. But in all fairness, I still had to learn what that meant to be a mentor, and I'm still learning. So that's why, this conversation really came up was for us to help identify one, what do we believe would be helpful in mentoring, and one, why, and two, why do we even feel like it is important, especially for young Black males, to have mentors? And I think they come in all shapes and sizes and things like that. But I'm sure we're going to get more into that as we go on with the conversation. So I think as we are starting now, we're looking at it as a question of as older men. Again, here we got this aspect: are we old or are we older? I think we talking as older men. How do we step into that role of guiding our younger brothers?
well, John, I'm fascinated by you having said that you don't really, and I want to speak for you. You correct me if I missed it, but the notion that you felt that you didn't really have a
Mm,
mentor, I'm fascinated by that
I've
because
had that same feeling,
I
man.
feel the same way, right? There's a
Hmm.
way in which there wasn't, I don't know of, I can't think of a single person who like helped guide me or like said this is, but no, I've said the same thing, and I think it's because of that that I have a particular interest in at least engaging with young folks, young
mhm,
cats. I don't think I call it mentoring,
mhm,
but at least, I keep some young cats around me that I
mhm,
like to try to talk to and treat as grown people.
mhm,
And like weigh in when asked or sometimes offer stuff too. I guess that's kind of mentoring, but I don't really see it that way. Call it that. But I'm like you. I'm like cool. I don't. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have. I don't think I had that.
Yeah, my at least in how I can conceptualize a mentor or what it means to mentor someone, so the noun or the verb, I did not have that going on for me coming up. I think probably the no, no, that wouldn't even be it to say, because I was gonna say maybe kind of in law school, the way that the Black Law Student Association, the older, when I was in my first year, the second and third years, how they kind of brought us along. But that wasn't really mentorship. That was more so just the culture of the Black law students in my
Mm-hmm.
school, and how, we took care of each other. So I guess it might have been more community than
Mm-hmm.
mentorship. When I think of mentorship, I think of someone that's a concerted effort to kind of to guide you along a path, or to help correct your path if you're headed in the wrong direction, or to kind of to give you some wisdom from some
Mm-hmm.
experience to, those things. I think, and when I think of mentorship, I think of a relationship. Is how I conceive of it and look at it.
A two-way one. A two-way
Yeah,
one. Right.
yes, a
Mm-hmm.
two-way one, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel like I had that either. I had role models. I had people
Correct.
that cared. I had people that in college, no, again, I had some people that cared about me, but no, there wasn't that back and forth, that true relationship in that fashion. So let's kind of like, looking at it historically, as we're talking about it, when we were coming up, even looking at the different organizations or
Mm-hmm.
social institutions at the time. We in the notes at family, church, sports, community leaders, those were around,
Yep.
but I still honestly don't see that mentor that would have stuck out for me. So I agree with you, John. Do you think those kind of traditional mentoring structures exist today? We did not see that, but I know, Greg, you're saying that you might not call it that, but you try to, you have assumed that role, or you kind of have those building those kind of relationships with some young people that you keep around. How much of it do you see today?
I think the word. It feels like the word mentor.
Hmm.
I would argue some of it comes out of sort of a corporate sort of context,
Hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
where you people someone's in the company for a long time. I'm trying to show them what they call it, show them the ropes, teach them the ropes, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
the saying goes. And so I think that's part of my reluctance in accepting that. But it is true that it's important, and I think you do see sometimes where you're able to influence younger folks or less experienced folks about it. Because by the way, it's not even just about age; it's
Mm-hmm.
also people who may have a little less experience in roles than you might. And so to me, it's always been about how open am I? I try to make myself open and approachable and be less of a talker. Like, so what
Mm-hmm.
you think? What do you like? How do you feel? My sense is that it's a pretty rare thing outside of families, right? Like you'll see it in politics with like, especially in Chicago, right? Where someone's dad or uncle is involved in politics or has a position
Mm-hmm.
and they're, for better or worse, handing it off to a sibling or a son or daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I see it in that context, but
Yeah.
outside of sort of a corporate
Oh, I've got
situation, I
an
don't.
example. I
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
got an example.
Mhm.
His brother that he's from Chicago. We used to hoop with him. His name is Marty Monaghan.
Mm.
He's got this. He's the. I want to say the executive director, and I might get that wrong, but I'll have to go to his website. But he runs this organization called the Black Man Lab,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and he's in Atlanta now. And whenever
Mm.
I'm down there, I'm trying to see if I could catch up with him. Well, I'm on a time when they have some kind of event going on, but I'm usually down there for graduation and don't have the time to make it to some of the different things. But I know that they do mentoring as a big part of this organization. But it's called the Black Man Lab, and so it's a really interesting and cool organization. This brother is doing right now,
Mhm.
very very grassroots. That just popped into my head as an example where I know there's some structured opportunities for older cats to mentor the young cats that are connected to this organization. So
Hmm.
so to your point, the corporate, like you said, but also that not for profit space,
Hmm.
is where
Hmm.
we see that kind of stuff, community organizations and that kind of thing. Even the one that I was a part of a few years back, it was called Project Higher Ed. One of the things that we were talking about doing was some mentoring within the structure that we were trying to develop. So there's some opportunities out there, and it does exist.
Oh yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
it
and
was interesting what you said, Greg. I'm sorry, John, about the politics and the. I think it's interesting because a lot of times I feel like the older politicians don't ever really want to let go, and
hmm
so I
Unless
think
it's a
even
family.
yeah, and so even
hmm
the mentoring gets stunted to a certain degree because they
hmm
don't
Well,
want
there's a certain person that I consider.
to.
That's why it's important to like define what we even
Yeah.
mean by mentorship, because there's someone who's a politician, elected official, that I consider a mentor, right?
Hmm.
But did he really? Were we really close where he was advising me? No, not at all.
hmm
But I consider him as someone I would want to like sort of be like. He was kind of an example that I saw, but did we ever have any deep sort of like analysis around our
hmm
relationship and the work that I do and what values we might share? We never did that. And
But
that's
is
why I
that
think it's
required for it to for the
that
relationship? And to your point, is that required? Is that part of the definition? John was about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are both touching on really about as I've kind of looked into what mentoring and mentorship is, you both have said really the qualities of what makes up mentoring. And the key to that is that it does have to be a two-way relationship. Otherwise, you're just a teacher to that person, and the person becomes a student otherwise, or a coach, and you're the athlete or the whatever that you need to be coached in. And from that there has to be, some sense of what I've looked into: clarity, communication, and
mhm,
consultation. So,
Hmm.
that's the things that you both have just been saying, is that it has to be
Hmm.
some kind of, advice, awareness. We've got to be able to talk about what does that look like,
Hey,
where
this is
am I
going
trying to
on.
achieve.
I got a
Right.
I got an issue that I need some
Right.
guidance on.
Right.
You know.
All of that is
Okay.
what I can come to see,
Hmm.
that is a part of it, as we're getting into like current
I
settings,
had that.
social media and things like that.
I did have that a little bit.
Oh, uh-huh.
My first boss when I started practicing law, Mark Dubofsky. I will say
Uh-huh.
that I consider.
Dabowski,
I
Hmm.
remember
Dabowski,
Dabowski.
Dabowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that he was a mentor in some respects. He was. Hmm.
Now that's it.
Hmm.
And I mean,
Hmm.
so when I was coming to North Carolina to start practice, the way I got sold on coming was the provider that I was going to be working with was an established black male internal medicine physician already in the community. So here I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm about to truly get some mentoring into the how to do this thing. But I think I've told y'all the story that before I even got here, he decided he didn't want to be a part of the company anymore. So we never got to work together. Yeah, I think I met him probably about 5 years after I'd already been working and established and stuff. So, but yeah, but I mean, so I think, like we said, I think those are some aspects. But some structured areas, Rich, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I think that is considered a mentoring program that's out there. I know for the fraternal organizations, they have mentoring programs within their organizations, and I'm sure the sororities do as well. But our conversation is
Mhm.
more around the young men. But it has to be those, you at least need those three elements, I think, as part of mentoring. You need that clarity, communication, and consultation. That has to be a part of it as well. So,
Hmm.
So yeah,
Cool. The
yeah,
three C's.
hmm
The
yeah.
three
Don't forget
C's of
those.
mentoring.
hmm
Yep,
hmm
yep, yep. And I think we are. So it's a funny way in which more we've talked about it. The way we kind of initially, we all I think all agreed from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning that we didn't really have any real mentoring, but then sort of more we thought about it, I think we sort of agreed we had some elements of
Mm-hmm.
mentoring, even
Yeah. So
uh,
yeah, you had
you
some of the verb, but not necessarily the noun. You had some
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
mentoring, but you
exactly.
Right.
might not have had a true mentor.
Yeah,
Um,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there were a few opportunities along the way. One of the interesting questions I think that popped up when we were putting together the outline was this notion of how changing family dynamics or how social media has impacted this notion of mentoring. Because to the question of these structures still exist, and if we look at these three C's, I think the three C's could exist over social media. The three C's could exist even if family dynamics are changing, if there's an opportunity for that relationship. And people
Mm-hmm.
build relationships and through social media. It's interesting that there are some people I communicate with regularly on Facebook that I've never really spent any time with in person, but we align on different ideas or thoughts or issues, and so we interact regularly. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Well, that
and
brings in even
hmm
up to date conversation, as it relates to Chat GPT AI and what kind
Mm,
of influence that seems to be able to have on some people. There was the recent case of the young man who committed suicide based on his conversation with Chat GPT and AI, God rest his soul. But, you
wow.
know, that in some form was an AI device mentoring this young man,
and that's just it. It doesn't have
and
all the
it
three
led.
C's, and
Well,
so it's
exactly.
close to mentorship, but it's not true mentorship.
Right.
Right? What were your three C's again?
Clarity.
Hmm.
Clarity.
Clarity, communication, and consultation.
And so, yeah, so you had consultation and
Hmm.
some kind of sort of, well, I don't know. Um, Clarity,
A certain
definitely
kind of
not.
communication did
Yeah,
happen, right?
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
but the clarity is what's lacking
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Clarity around the relationship. And then clarity around with especially if it was Chat GPT, which is notorious for making mistakes. Um,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
it's so you then some recent a recent study they figured out why Chat GPT makes why all of these AIs make up stuff is because
Hmm.
of the training. The way they were being trained was to the training rewarded them for an answer, um,
Right.
but did not reward them for saying I don't know.
Right.
Which is what you should do when you don't know. And
Hmm.
so they start making up shit. So,
Hmm.
That GPT always got an answer. It
Right.
might not be the
hmm
the one that applies appropriately, but
right. So I think
AI
that clarity
always
piece
has
is
an
missing.
answer.
Right. I
You
agree with
know.
that.
I think so.
I
hmm
agree with
That's
that.
crazy
So.
though. Because even if it's not a true mentorship, it's a relationship.
Hmm.
Um, and you got that
Hmm.
person was looking for guidance of some sort.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
sounded like
Well, I think
some deeper issues, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I mean, but think about like catfishing, and things like that. These are all opportunities that folks get into whatever they feel they're needing, lacking, wanting, grab on to something that is not tangible to them, but yet is has somehow figured out the psyche or what this person is looking for or what is perceived that they're looking
hmm
for,
Yeah.
and then try to provide that for them. And in most cases, unfortunately, in a negative way as well. Those are the things, but that can happen in real life. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are instances of folks, quote, thought they had a mentor, and that mentor was just using them, for whatever gain they were trying to get. You know,
I think it's an interesting thing. I was, to think about it more. A lot of it really is about just the basic concept of relationship and what it means, and
hmm
and
Yep.
and like how you interact with somebody or something,
hmm
and is it helpful to you or whatever it is doing for you. Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
it's
That's
That.
what you
that's
said too, GK. It's a matter of what is the mentoring trying to help you with. So is it a role in work? Is it a role in politics? Is it a role in life? So if it's a role in life, the question that I'm gonna pose to us is, does that person need to look like me, or does that person need to understand the culture that I'm in to help me with that guidance? And does that person need to be a male?
It's
I
interesting.
think that's a very interesting question, and I'm going to say no to all
Hmm.
three. If the question
Mm,
is life, you
Hmm.
said,
yeah.
now
Hmm.
in career, I think there should be some alignment, at least with respect to experience or the path I'm trying to head down or something like
Hmm.
that. Even if it socially, there might be some benefits. If I'm seeking guidance in social settings from someone who has similar experiences or maybe looks more like me or something like that. But I don't know. I think as it's just, then there's this grandest thing of life and how to live or how to live my best life or how to achieve my grandest goals or something like
Hmm.
that. I think no is the answer to all of those because I think it really comes down to that again, that relationship and that individual, that other person, that their ability to truly connect with you and
Hmm.
get out that stuff out of you, right?
Hmm.
Because if
Hmm.
this is about a mentor is helping you achieve some level or some goal or something, it's all about that relationship between you and that person,
Hmm.
and their ability to help you see what you need to see to get where you're trying to go. So that can
No,
come in any form, I think.
Hmm.
agree. What's foundational to that relationship really is trust, right? Like
Hmm.
of the thing that the person's trying to mentor you on, or like you actually there's a certain vulnerability that comes with like allowing someone like to
Hmm.
mentor you.
Hmm.
There's a certain arrogance perhaps in saying you're mentoring someone.
Hmm.
Okay, confidence in saying that you're mentoring someone. And yeah, so trust is a big thing. Like if
Hmm.
you're mentoring someone, you is it possible to be mentored by someone you can't trust? I don't know, right? So again, it's like the things about relationships, what makes a relationship successful and valuable.
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
that dips you off into a whole other direction because this with this term trust, because I think too that's one of those terms that I think a lot of people misuse. I think a lot of people, I should say, give trust in situations where it's not earned. I think people, I think a lot of times people are willing to trust someone because they like them. Real trust is born out of experience.
Hmm.
I could
Hmm.
shared experience ultimately, so I can trust that you're going to do this or that in this situation
Hmm.
because I
Mhm.
know you because we've gone through this together or that or this or that. And so I think this notion of trust sometimes is handed out a little too freely in some settings. I think though, as it relates to this mentorship thing that you're talking about, it's the essence of it is because I have to be able to, if I don't trust you, how am I going to execute,
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're trying to give me?
Hmm.
Am I truly going to be willing to go down that path or take that, or especially when a lot of times mentors are going to ask you to look at yourself or to really be honest
Hmm.
about X, Y, or Z. You've got to be willing to accept that criticism.
Well, how do you think, given that, how do we think we could advise, some younger folks? So, uh, my son, your son, Miles, yes, we are. So that can bring a whole nother question. Fathering and mentoring. What's the difference in the two? Because we've got those experiences. We've lived, life that are probably looking at and things of that nature. But is that just being a father to them? So how do we help them to look for mentors in their life
Yeah,
for what maybe they may be looking for as they're, life and growing up and trying to figure this thing out? What are some things we might need to try to recommend for them?
that's interesting. I think our sons are a little lucky in the sense that they have men around who are
Mm-hmm.
mindful of that stuff, or at least adjacent to men
Mm-hmm.
who are mindful of that and want to like tell them things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're open to it. But I can't say that that's a common thing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think most men, young men, I would say black men today don't really have that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hunch.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and that
And
connects to
nothing.
just the lack of role models, father figures, et cetera, that
Yeah,
are around. So proximity is an issue with a lot of that. I think
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So like,
you know.
just like Miles will meet Rich, and maybe you've seen him once every 4 or 5 years or whatever, but Rich feels no shyness about offering
Mm-hmm.
his opinion or telling him about, and Miles is open to hearing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Same thing, any of y'all, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how common that is,
I
you
don't
know.
think it. I don't think it's very because of the relationship piece of it, right? Everything that we're talking about is ultimately tied to relationship. And I know one of the questions was, why do you think some younger men resist being
Mm-hmm.
mentored? And it's that relationship piece, right? It's that
Mm-hmm.
credibility piece. Why should I
Mm-hmm.
listen to you? Who are you?
Eh,
And that
A
comes
certain
from,
amount of arrogance that comes with saying,
yeah,
I'm gonna like my mind telling me I'm gonna give you advice,
mm-hmm.
right?
right. It's that trust piece. I don't trust. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know you. Who are you? Why should I listen to you? You know.
And, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, in our aspects of our community, we just haven't had those positive, especially male role models, coming up. So again, it's what you said, Rich. It's that trust piece, has to, at least in our opinion, needs to be a part of that relationship or develop throughout that relationship. So
Yeah.
it's a barrier there. If we don't get it that way, then typically we're getting it from those that we are around. And sometimes that's not always the best influence there as well. So, again, if I'm having this conversation with Jonathan, I guess, I would say just what you guys have been saying there is that, well, one, make sure that it's someone that has some experience in what it is that you're trying to accomplish and achieve. Make sure that you are able to have a conversation with that person versus they're just telling you what to do as well. And just make sure that there's a comfort level there that as you guys are having a conversation, you feel like there is an element of trust that's developing from that. I mean, I think those would be those aspects that I would give as advice for that type deal.
So, Greg,
I
he
agree.
touched
Hmm.
on it, and I want you to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
How do we earn trust across the generational divide? How do
Mm-hmm.
Oh
you
boy.
earn it? How do you earn the trust from these young people that you keep around you that you might not be formally mentoring, but they're in your sphere?
I think, it's not even an effort. I like listening to them and getting their points of view. So my instinct is really mostly to just listen and like not offer judgment or something right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sort of my approach to all of it in terms of like mentorship or relationships with folks. It's just like, okay, I'm learning here too, and just like make people have feel like there's a safe space. Don't what do they call it? Don't betray folks, confidence or trust in you. Like I'm not out there saying such and such
Mm-hmm.
said this or said that. Yeah, and yeah, it's related to the listening part. Not always feeling the need to be the smartest person. Sometimes you just let them say what they're
Mm-hmm.
saying, and you actually don't have to say anything sometimes
Mm-hmm.
or correct them even when they're wrong. Eventually they will come back and say, GK said this or
Mm-hmm.
GK said that or something. And it's like, whatever, we're all learning here
Mm-hmm.
together. That's how I try to approach it. Not try to always be like, this is what I think you should do. And I know that there was a source, even, with Miles, a bit of challenge that I didn't know. I was never the person to tell him this is what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
I always, yeah, I think he sometimes wanted me to tell him what to do, but I, I very rarely did, unless I thought he was off track or something. But it's like this is what I think, and
Mm-hmm.
this is my approach. This is what I did. This is how I thought about it. This is how I think about it. But I try not to be overly judgmental, regardless of the scenario, unless you see somebody in trouble
Mm-hmm.
and then you gotta like, yo, this is what's happening. So that's what I try to do, whether it's younger folks or just people I'm around, just kind of like more listen, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like show through action what I actually think, you
Well,
know.
and also remember that mentoring, mentorship, that's not a perfect relationship either. This is one of growth and guidance for both. Your mentor is not perfect, your mentee's not perfect. If you start, however, believing that that person is perfect, then there's an issue right then and there. So I think we got to just say and put it out there. Just remember, people are people. What they're sharing is hopefully their authentic selves and what they've experienced, and you take from that as to what you feel you can take from it to help you on your path.
Yep,
Hmm. So let me
yep.
ask, have either of you, well, no, we kind of talked about that some, Greg, but John, have you taken on that full mentor role, or have you kind of mentored some people but not quite formally? What I want to get at is the impact that it would have had on you. That's what I'm
Mm.
kind of interested in,
Mhm.
is the
Mhm.
this flip side of it. What that was like as you being the mentor. What benefit did you get from it? What was the feels for you?
Mhm. Yeah, it's like you said, GK. I don't think I've quote embraced the full word of mentor, but I will say that I have at least two that would consider me as their mentor, as I help give them guidance as they went through their path of medicine. So one actually used to cheer with Alex, my daughter, and she went through her med school. We stayed connected, trying to help, give guidance and understanding of what that looks like and how to navigate and how's this going as it relates to life around that. She did her residency outside of Chicago. So, again, learning what that was like, how she's doing. She went into internal medicine and now is a hospitalist actually at my hospital here in North Carolina as well. So whenever she's around, she references me, if we're together as her mentor. And then I had a young man who also considers me that as well in similar situation. I'd known him since we moved here and watched him grow up, and he decided the only thing I couldn't get is he went to Hampton instead of Howard, but I said, well, yeah, that's on you. But but he did great. He went to medical school at Rush, in Chicago as well. And now he's a practicing cardiologist here in North Carolina as well. And I guess it's a sense of and still connecting and having conversations, with them on different levels as well too. So I think it's a sense of like, hey, I guess I did help this person, you know, down a path that we think has done them well type deal. But my issue with mentoring is that, and I think you guys have heard me say this before, is that I still struggle with being a good father. So for
Mm,
me, it was about, well, wait, I don't know if I can mentor these folks if I don't even feel like, how am I doing with my own kids yet? You see what I'm saying?
I
So,
do.
but again, as age and growth and life has gone on, Jonathan, definitely looks to me for advice and recommendations and sees how I do things and tries to at least have an understanding of what he may need to do to try to accomplish some things. But we talk about that, well, this has to be your path. It's not you trying to shadow my path type deal. And the same thing with Alex as well. I'm like, yay, you're a doctor now, you're doing your thing, but you did your thing your way. I just help to be a support for you, give you some thoughts on this, that, and the other, and how to handle certain situations. That then it's up to you on how you take that and make it fit into your world and your life type deal as well. So, but yeah,
So
Yeah, just a
so
little
maybe
imposter syndrome. That's all.
that
But
right, right, right,
you
right, right,
I think so, but I
right.
mhm.
also think there's a humility around it that is evident to me the more I think about it. It is this notion that, like, you don't call yourself a mentor, right? Mentees call you the mentor,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
your
Right.
mentor, like,
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
mentored
Right.
all these
Right. Right.
kids.
Right. Right.
It's like the same way. I was a great dad. Your
Right.
kids like,
Right.
you suck. You
Right.
don't even
Right.
like you, right?
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
like what are they calling you, right?
Yeah.
Um, Part of it
Well,
that I
and
think is
that still goes to this notion of relationship ultimately, right?
yeah,
Is it is it a declaration or is it an agreement, right? Right. Are
yeah,
we agreeing that this is a relationship where I'm the mentor and you're the mentee, or I'm the mentee and you're my mentor? Is this relationship has evolved to that? And again, that goes to that clarity point that John had mentioned as one
yeah.
of the three C's. It's clear that this is the relationship, and the only way that becomes clear is if the two parties agree to it, right, on
Mm-hmm.
some level. And so it's not a just a it's just not a blind bold declaration. I'm going to mentor you because you need this in your life, and I'm just
Right.
that dope.
I'm
And
I'm
so
Moses. I've got the tablets.
Right.
right,
I'm on the mount.
and so
This is a way.
Right.
and
Right.
so it's not that, it's right. It's developed a relationship, and sometimes people go into it with the plan of being a mentor or being a mentee, and that's a lot of these formal settings we talked about, right? If you've got this
Mm-hmm.
structured program where I'm signing up to be a mentor, right? I'm going to be a big
Mm-hmm.
brother. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
I'm this kid in this neighborhood that needs something, and my mom or somebody stuck me in this program, and so okay, cool, I'm gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
Versus other settings where that relationship might happen a little more organically. If it's in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace or in the church or in all kinds of other settings, it could that clarity might still come about, but it's going to come about a little more organically as opposed to a
Mm-hmm.
planned, structured. Either way, it still ultimately comes down to this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a commitment to it. Yeah,
Yep.
from both sides.
I agree. I agree. So, well, hey, I think that's leading us down to the next topic here, brothers.
hmm
If you good, and I think that is,
Yep.
where mentoring may show up is as it relates to guiding towards education and career choices. So, GK,
hmm
I think we're gonna have you kind of kick off our transition over to is college still the required path for success?
Yeah, so I think we grew up anyway during a period in which college was called sort of the golden ticket. But we have lived through, those of us who had student loans, even 30 plus years ago, no,
He said
at the
had.
cost
Right.
of
He
had
said
or
had.
still have.
I'm still paying. I'm getting
So
close, but he said had.
had or have,
uh,
uh, understand
lucky you.
intimately,
No, I'm just kidding.
intimately how expensive college can be.
Man.
And it's like, it's wild. Like, even,
Mhm.
sending kids to college now, right? Like, it's ridiculous. So there's this question of, is college worth it, quote unquote worth it, given the financial cost involved, and on the other end, it's no guarantee, right, to a job or to any success in the future, right? The idea of college being so-called golden ticket is under major stress, uh, even relative to like us 30 some years ago, right? It's even worse and more challenging to even deal with today for college graduates. And so, should we still, in the midst of not just the costs of it, but like given all the things that are happening in college campuses, given all of the technology that's like replacing people, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
should we even be encouraging, black men in particular, to go to college, right? We know by all of the metrics that fewer and fewer are going, that the barriers, even beyond the costs, are getting higher and higher, particularly for black men, and so I think the question is college really worth it today? And yeah, as sort of the main route to advancement, particularly for black folks and black men.
Disclaimer,
Mm-hmm.
disclaimer. I'm a I'm a I'm a university academic leader,
Right,
right?
right.
They call me
So,
dean. They
right.
call me dean. I run at the moment seven degree programs across three universities, so I'm a little biased on this issue. But just throwing that disclaimer out there. I mean, we're all college graduates, but yeah, I work for a university system, so I'm definitely a little biased on this particular issue. So I wanted to put
Well,
that out there.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. And I think that's highly important. But as we were getting ready for this, I did a little research on this one as well, my brothers, and came up and found out that there's a foundation out there called the Blue Heart Foundation. This actually is a foundation that developed for this question. Basically, really focuses on empowering and educating underserved youth. So they had 6 reasons for the importance of higher education for African American boys. And I'm gonna list those 6, and then we can go into it more. Or we, continue and incorporated that into our conversation as well. But the 6 were, and not any particular order, but expanded career opportunities was one of the reasons why. Higher earning potential overall. Okay, again, overall, we're saying here. 3, transition to a young man. That may be again some conversation that we earlier had as it relates to that as well. 4, improved confidence was found through their research of African American boys that went on to higher education. Number 5, happier and healthier lifestyles was observed there as well. And 6, becoming a world traveler. I thought those were interesting 6 observations that they had as to the importance of higher education in African American boys. What I also found through some research, though, and this might blow your mind a little bit, the completion of college of black males is only about 48%, or actually, sorry, 40%, about 40%. If they broke that down to HBCUs and predominantly white institutions, only
Right,
about
right.
32% of black males completed their degree program, and they looked at a 6-year program when they looked at this,
That's right.
and 46% out of the predominantly white institutions. However,
Mhm.
they did put the caveat that HBCUs showed a stronger positive impact on them after they completed their education through those means as well. So just some research points out there as we.
That's that cultural piece, that HBCU family kind of thing. And interestingly, when you talk about the white institutions, a large chunk of that are schools like mine,
Mm,
where
And mine.
mm,
no, I don't mean the U of I mean where I work at now. I
Oh,
mm,
work
mm,
sorry.
for,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
work
Yeah,
for a for-profit. We graduate more black students than most of the HBCUs every year. That's, I mean, just sheer numbers,
mm,
comparing institutions. But we graduate more black and brown students and more women because
mm,
our students are the students nobody else wanted.
mm,
Everybody else
mm,
gave up on them. They thought that they couldn't learn, they couldn't do this or that. They just needed a little more. And that's the
mm,
same. And so it's different from the HBCUs in that we don't have the culture that the HBCUs have, but we have the faculty that care. And
mm,
so that's where their focus is at. And they just happen to work in those professions too. But it's really interesting what you said. one of the things I think that's tied to all of those, this number, this six that you put up here, is what college does is college graduates think better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
College
Exactly.
graduates, college
Right.
graduates learn how to learn better.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
college does for you, in addition to, say, developing a big chunk of knowledge in some particular area. If you complete and get that degree, is that
Mm-hmm.
developing of critical thinking skills, is learning how to
Mm-hmm.
do some research. It's learning how to not just take everything on face value, learning how to read and
critical
Right.
write
thinking.
effectively,
Right.
communicate effectively. All of those things translate. And then that last one, becoming a world traveler, that goes along with that critical thinking piece, with that
Mm-hmm.
being open to other perspectives and to look
Mm-hmm.
at and be willing to learn. That becoming a world traveler, it's tied into that, right? Because
Right.
you're going to learn other cultures, you're going to learn other people. You've got to be comfortable not always being able to communicate naturally or comfortably, but you still have to be able to get it done, right?
Right.
If you're somewhere where they don't speak your native language, but you still need to be able to communicate with them so that
Mm-hmm.
you can eat, so that you can get around, so that you can enjoy and experience their culture. I think people that go to college learn how to do that better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well,
Relationships, learning
mhm,
about
yeah, relationship.
relationships as well. Go ahead, GK.
mhm,
Well, we're at an interesting moment in history, right? Like, I think, especially when you break it down by gender, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, more and more women are going to
mhm,
college than men.
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
The campuses are like becoming like HBCUs have sort of been that way for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but the number, like it's like 3 to 1 or some crazy
Mm-hmm.
number now.
mhm.
Increasingly more female.
Mm-hmm.
And so this question that we're wrestling with around the importance of college for men, young men in particular, is an important one because I think it's part of a larger cultural thing we're like dealing with, and it is like what's going on with young men,
Mm-hmm.
black men, white men.
Yeah.
Like
It's the
there's something culturally
stupidification of
happening.
America.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
it's particularly pernicious. I don't know why I don't want to use that word, but I want to, amongst males. And I think that it is a cultural and, I would say a national crisis that
Mm-hmm.
males are in. And I think black males have sort of been in for a little while, but white males are increasingly in that category as well.
I think
And
they've
because it's
been in
just
that
showing up.
category in large numbers for a long time, but I think in recent years it's become a lot more evident.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, you're the higher ed expert, but I know
well, no,
that the
and
trends
I was just
that
about to say
have
this isn't
gotten,
even about higher ed.
yeah.
The organization that I was chairing a few years back, Project Higher Ed, our focus was on preparing families for college, but
Mhm.
our ultimate goal was to begin in fourth grade. We started
Mm-hmm.
out working in the high schools to start preparing students and families, but our ultimate goal was to work backwards all the way back to
Mm-hmm.
like fourth grade, because that's where you
Mhm.
start to lose black boys. Is
Mm-hmm.
around
Yeah.
fourth grade is when they start to diverge
Oh, yeah.
away from education. So the goal was, let's get there and get into schools and try and work this program right there so we could catch them on the front end,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
For
Hmm.
black males, it's a long-standing thing. But I'm suggesting that they were the canary in the coal mine 30 years ago,
Yeah,
right? Like
agree.
what was Jawanza Kunjufu's book?
Hmm.
The conspiracy to destroy black boys. And I think that uh, from based out of Chicago, whatever.
Hmm.
But I think we're seeing that amongst even white males now,
Yeah,
and that like I don't even want to get political here, but that's part of what I think we're seeing sort of play out,
I think the
and you see
political is
it just
inevitable because it's all tied together, the social, the political, the economic. But to your point, this is a true example of America trying to hurt us and hurting everybody. That's the historical reality we're living with right now, too, politically, economically, socially, in this very moment. But this is just another example of that. And you're right. And I think social media, all technology is allowing us to see it a lot more
Mm-hmm.
clearly and a lot more upfront. To your point, this is 30, 40 years back. This isn't just happening right now, it's generational, right? We see the
Mm-hmm.
difference from our generation to the generations that came after us. And I think this goes to that ultimate question as it pertains to black boys and young black men is yes, the college is important. The technical skills are important. When you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at the careers of the future, AI is everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of jobs in the past are going to disappear for better or for worse, but the other jobs are going to emerge because when new technology comes, there's always got to be humans in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
AI is only as effective as the humans that use it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be a need for advanced education tied to technology. There's no
Mm-hmm.
avoiding it. And we got to get our young boys on that path so that they're
Mm-hmm.
not working the worst of the worst jobs that are non tech jobs. That's my opinion.
No, that's great. And I mean, part of that comes into play again as to does it have to be college? So we know that the cost of
Hmm.
college these days is just astronomical, and the debt that they see later just as prohibitive as well. So it makes it difficult to follow those paths unless you're going into a profession that really is going to require that basis of knowledge and understanding. So this is beyond just the aspect of just natural growth, understanding, relationship building, critical thinking that we all felt that we got from college in and of itself. It was a matter of growing without
Yeah,
having to
but we
be
also
grown
got career
yet.
paths. We also
But
got career paths.
exactly.
Well,
You know.
I
But
I
now,
think I don't think college is for everybody. I
right,
think that
No, it's not. It's not.
I
right.
think there is a very small group of people that will benefit from going to college. And this is a little controversial, but I think that the number of people is actually getting smaller and not growing. I
Hmm.
think that there are so many alternatives to going like to a 4-year college or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think you can go to trade
Hmm.
school or you can go to apprenticeship.
Yeah, but
Like you could go become, and by the way, make a whole lot more money than
Up
people
front.
who got a traditional college
Hmm.
degree,
in a
right?
lot of
Like
areas, yeah. And
particularly
college,
particularly
that's
if you're
just
in
it. College isn't just about the money,
the
though, right?
Right.
The career,
particularly if you
it's
get
not.
particularly but for a lot of people, right, they don't have the luxury of not being about anything other than the money. And so if you can get out of a trade school or like
Or community
some kind
college
of
or
community
apprenticeship, right?
college,
Community
Hmm.
college is still
yeah,
college, and so
where you
you
well that's
still.
not the same.
It
It's
is.
not the same thing.
It is the same
Uh,
thing ultimately because the credits transfer, right? So
Hmm.
when you get
I'm
down
talking
to
about
it,
people who are terminal community college students, right? Everybody doesn't want to go to a 4-year
I'm
college
not
in
saying you
order
go
to
to one. I'm saying
pursue.
you get an associate's degree and you
Hmm.
still that's still moving you on a career path. That's community
Yeah,
college. That's all kinds of colleges.
but it's an associate's degree to go, for example, become an iron worker, or to get an associate's to
or to
go
become
become
or to become
a
a cop
roofer,
or to become a cop.
Hmm.
right? Or a police officer,
Hmm.
or any level, any kind of law enforcement. Or it's a million things you could do other than going to college and getting a degree in history.
Right, but nobody's talking about just a degree in history. I was just talking about
It's
college
an
in
ex-
general,
it's
Hmm.
just
it's
as
an
an example.
example,
But I mean, even to be a cop in a
as
lot of
opposed to
places,
what
you
going to
have to
college
have an
and getting a degree,
associate's degree.
Hmm.
as opposed to going to college and getting what other degree, like what, engineering or something, or what?
I was
Well,
just saying to be a
yeah.
cop, you still have to have an associate's degree in a lot of places. So that's
I
still
think
some
that's going
college.
less and less by the way.
No, that's actually going up more and more. It used to be that
We
a lot of colleges, I mean, that a lot of law enforcement agencies didn't require more than
we
associates.
literally
What
we
we're seeing now
literally
is
just
more
passed
bachelor's degrees are being
we
required.
literally just passed a bill that's hiring 10,000 ICE officers,
That's on the
paying them
federal level.
$100,000 a
Right, that's on
year,
the
and
federal
giving them
level.
50.
Most
Hmm.
cops are not on the federal level. Most cops are at the are at the
I'm trying to suggest to you that this is where it's going. It's literally they're literally eliminating those kinds of qualifications, and I'm saying that
that's
if we're
short
going to
term.
be
When you use ICE as an example, I think that's short term.
10,000, they got
No, I mean
40.
this lowering of standards,
Right.
because that's
I
what that
think
is.
that's a more
That's
I
a
don't think it's
political.
temporary. I think.
I
it's a
do.
theoretical thing that you are saying may change, but I'm telling you what it is
Well,
right
Right.
I'm
now
telling you.
is
I'm
like
telling
all
you.
of them are actually,
Yeah.
all of them are changing in a way that's fundamentally uh, de-emphasizing outside of Illinois
Hmm.
the importance of a college degree. That's
Hmm.
just like undeniable.
Hmm. That's
And
what's
I'm just
going
using
on
the ice as an example.
at this time. I agree with that, GK. I think that's what's going on at this time, but I
Yeah. I
think
think
that's
that's a
stemmed
temporary
by a
blip.
lot of
No, y'all missing it.
political.
This is why, but this is the point I'm trying to make.
Hmm.
The crisis that we're talking about, not just amongst black males,
Hmm.
the crisis now is bigger than black males. It's a crisis amongst white men. And this is why the so called lowering of standards is happening. White males are not going to college in the same way that they used to. And
Hmm.
so they understand that. And
Hmm.
so they are de emphasizing, like even in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Now they like jobs that you used to like needed a college degree for. They eliminated the federal government, not just ICE. They're eliminating the need of the college degree. This is very intentional. It's very
Hmm.
connected to the fact that white males aren't going, not because black males aren't going to
Hmm.
college, but because
Right.
white males too
Right.
are starting to not go to college
Right.
too. And so those jobs that they're hiring people for, those are six-figure jobs. They're not, you know, what we used to think of as like jobs that nobody wanted. People want them now. But I think what I was trying to argue is that the way the way in which the old rules around college uh, aren't applicable for the future. And I think that's not a statement against its actual value. It's a statement about what's actually happening, which to me is not good, by the way. It's a we need people who are able to do all the things that we mentioned earlier, including critical skills, all of the six things you mentioned, John, which is why people should go to college. I just think the country is far more of the race to the bottom than we realize.
Right. I see what you're saying, GK. I get what you're saying because if I look at it even from a medical standpoint, what do we see? We're seeing more physician assistants, nurse practitioners that are in essence taking the role as if they had a medical degree. And society is in almost accepting that as okay.
That's all financially and politically driven. Is
It
what this is
is. I
all
I,
is.
I agree.
This
Right.
is it's
I
the
agree with
setup
you.
to it's the setup to create more stupid consumers.
Yeah, I agree with you,
Is
Rich.
what this is all about. We want dumb
Hmm.
people who buy stuff, who work
Hmm.
who work hard. I mean, we're seeing it with this current administration, right? They're trying to turn the clock back. We want to create the only kind
Hmm.
of jobs we want to create are manual labor jobs or jobs that are going to benefit corporate America. And you know what? And what else we can do? Hey, let's we're going to create new criminals,
Hmm.
so all these kind of things so that we can create more opportunities for corporate America to make money,
Right.
and let's dumb down the population. So to your point, Greg, yeah, they're trying to create they're trying to make it harder for people to go to college. They're trying to disincentivize it. They're trying to
Hmm.
convince people that there's something wrong with those who do go to college,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
You know, you're woke or whatever. You know, they've
Right.
totally convoluted the true meaning of that word so effectively. But all of this stuff, to your point, it's designed to create, in my mind, just stupid consumers
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
willing and driving the prices up on everything, right? So if all we got are physicians assistants, everybody's going to be fine with it, right? Why?
Hmm.
Because I need something to help keep me alive. And it's
Right.
just that plain and simple, you know.
Right.
And so I'm going to accept whatever you give me, you know.
Right.
While the uber wealthy have the best doctors besides John, because he wouldn't work for them, you know.
Right. 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 That's it right there. So yeah. So I think it sounds like
I was gonna cuss, but we haven't
right.
cussed on these yet. So
Oh, did I?
Every now and then it slips out.
no, I
Uh
wanted
huh.
to because I want y'all to be clear about something. I'm not like saying these are like great
Right.
Yeah.
developments. I want to be
Right.
clear,
Right.
right? Like I'm just identifying the direction in which it's going. I'm not saying these are good things at
Right.
all.
Right.
And you're correct, Holloway. The idea is to create more consumers and less critical thinking.
Hmm. That's it. That's it exactly.
So,
So
but and
it's up
trade
to
school is
us.
not bad. It's trades are
Right.
important. I think the future there needs to be one of the things that we're seeing, in our spaces that we're seeing that education is coming from all kinds of different directions. Even last
Hmm.
year, our regional accreditor, Higher Learning Commission, their annual conference, they talked a lot about non-traditional education, right? Certificates, the fact that universities aren't the only ones granting degrees now. There are all kinds of
Hmm.
private companies that are involved in education, right? And
Hmm.
ultimately, education in all kinds of forms are a good thing, especially if they're teaching people how to think and how to learn. Trade schools, you like I said, we've got programs that are, we've got boot camps for like the cyber stuff and all kinds of certifications and all of that kind of stuff. But though the most successful ones tend to marry the technical with those soft skills, with those liberal
Hmm.
arts skills that were ultimately important to success, right? That ability to communicate
Hmm.
effectively, to write effectively, to think effectively, to question things. If you can marry
Hmm.
that with that technical skill, so the non-traditional degree, the 4-year degree really isn't for everybody. I mean, a lot of schools now, there
Correct.
are now 3-year bachelor's degree because people,
Hmm.
that's becoming a lot more in vogue now, and the accreditors are approving them. And that's because we're it's all about those core skills, right? We don't need to do it
Hmm.
in as much time, right? And so it's kind of the
Yeah.
bridge between an associate's and that traditional associates and the bachelor's. We get in that
Hmm.
in that shortened period of time because these things are still important, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Even, the landscape is changing. Yeah, different systemic barriers pop up. The money is always going to be an issue on some level because we've
Hmm.
got a system that's designed to keep people out, right?
Hmm.
Same thing. Healthcare and education, same
Hmm.
thing, right? In American
Hmm.
history, the prices went up because we had to try and keep black folks out, right? The
Hmm.
healthcare system is designed the way it's designed because it was set up to, we have to charge this stuff. So if we set prices right here, black folks can't pay for it. It was, I mean, this is all in the
Well,
history. It was all laid out.
Hmm.
And the same way, we, like in law schools, even the American Bar Association and things like that, they were the ones who pushed for the bar exam and things like that.
Hmm.
To try and limit access. All of this
Right.
stuff has been designed
Right.
to keep
exactly.
people
Right.
out, and which says
Right.
to me,
Right.
Gatekeeping.
why,
Gatekeep.
which says they don't want us to vote. Why? Because it's important. They don't want us to read. Why? Because it's important. All of these things that
Hmm.
historically they've
Well,
tried to keep us out of are the things we
Hmm.
have to insist our way into. You know.
Hmm.
I agree. Well, I go to this college question. I go back to my favorite um, class in
Hmm.
college, and there's no lie. I can't even make it up. My favorite class by far, it was two-part series class, and the first semester I got an A. I didn't take the second one, but it was called the an introduction to the political left or some variation
Hmm.
of that. And it's the most important, like my favorite class in college. But I can't imagine paying 40 to 50,000
Hmm.
dollars today to take that
Hmm.
class, right? Like it for a particular moment in history, it had value to me doing it along with some other things. But I just think that for a liberal arts education like the one I had, to tell people that they're going to pay 50, 60 G's or more for that is a hard thing to do. And I think that it's a mistake if we think that everyone has to take that
Yeah,
route,
but you you
right?
you you
We
you
have to figure,
pigeonholed it into a liberal arts degree, and so I
well,
think
what if
that's
they don't?
important, though, right?
Hmm.
That's why I
Yeah,
asked the question earlier about if you're an engineering student, It's a
Hmm.
different. If you're an engineering student at the University of Illinois, that's a different kind of education than if you're a sociology
Hmm.
student at the
Yeah,
University of
completely
Illinois,
different.
right? Like
Right. Yeah, and so it's
exactly.
that's because now college has been very successfully.
That's
No,
always
it's
been.
been it's tied to
That
career
was
path,
that was when you.
whereas in the past,
But that's what. No, that's to you, Holloway. You got into the U of I as an
right.
engineering student. I got into the University of
I
Iowa as a liberal
graduated as a
arts
liberal
student.
arts student.
And,
I got a political science degree.
but I, Hollis, I already know that. I'm explaining to you that was 40 damn years ago, and I'm saying it's only gotten more
I'm
exacerbated. It
with you.
hasn't.
I'm
It
saying the
hasn't gotten
political
less.
science degree by itself was worthless. The only value that but and so but
Hmm.
the cost of living, the cost of education, all of those costs were so much lower then, right? Compared to
Hmm.
now. I mean, a
Yeah,
basic house in Chicago costs almost what $300,000, whereas 30 years ago it was
at least.
70,000 or 50,000.
Hmm.
And so and that changes the focus so much because
Hmm.
that career, that degree that didn't have a direct career path. For
Right.
me, the only path it has was law school, right?
Right. Right.
I
Yeah,
changed. I made that decision. I wanted to go to law school, so I
Right.
changed to political science because it was a less challenging path than trying to be an engineering student going to law school.
you
All right,
had that.
Hmm.
but if
You
I
had
had
that.
just that political science degree trying to go get a job then or
Right.
now, that's a
Right.
challenge. But now it's a much greater challenge when you're talking about $70,000 in debt
Right.
versus when I was at the U of I, my undergraduate tuition was about $2,000 a year.
Right. Right.
So so that was,
That's
that
that's
was
my point.
$8,000 versus what it is now. So it's
Right.
very dependent on that career path. So I think ultimately, and that's the challenge. There's two components to it. Yep. Am I looking at a college degree for a career path, or am I looking at it just for general learning? And that general learning piece has been destroyed because of
Hmm.
cost. Unless
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
wealthy, you don't get to go
Right.
to college to discover yourself anymore. You
Right.
don't get to go to college to
Right.
learn and just explore, Russian literature or something
Right.
like that. The
And
average
so
person, and that's
go
to
back
that
to the
point about the
question.
black men. Most black men don't have that financial wherewithal to go down that path, or I can
Right.
choose to study French literature, or even like I
Right.
did. A big chunk of my undergrad was I fashioned my own degree, right? My major was political science, but my minor was African and African American studies. I took
Hmm.
African languages, I took African history, I took about 8 semesters of French so I could
Hmm.
read African, authors in French.
Francophone.
Hmm.
Exactly. So, but that kind of stuff you can't afford to do now. I was
Hmm.
in state.
Right.
My
That
law school tuition was $3,500 a year at one of the top 20 law schools in the nation
Hmm.
because it was a state school, you know.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the finances have totally jacked things up.
Hmm.
To, but I still think the ultimate answer is yes, where we can and where it
Hmm.
financially makes sense. One of the things, I was a student at this past graduation a few weeks back. He pulled me to the side and he said, I have a question for you. He said, I'm trying to decide on graduate school where I should
Hmm.
go. And I said, the thing I always tell students is when you're picking an undergrad, I said you pick. I said you pick the best school you can afford. I said you pick a good school, but don't spend a whole lot of money on it. I said spend your
Hmm.
money on grad school. I said try to go to the best
Hmm.
grad school you can
Hmm.
go to in that particular program area. I said, but as far as
Hmm.
undergrad, I said you just getting a
Hmm.
degree, so you're trying to pick. If your goal is to go on further, yeah, I
Hmm.
said you want to save money in that
Hmm.
undergraduate degree,
Right.
and try to go to the best program you can for graduate school,
Right.
you know.
Well, and I think undergrad is that part that we've been saying is part of it is part of your growth and maturity and understanding of life as well. That doesn't have to be an expensive course for you to do that though as well.
And it doesn't have
So,
to be going away to school, which I think for a
right.
lot of people adds to that expense.
which I think is a whole different
That
Yeah.
is,
conversation because I have to be in the school of if you can
that's
go
better.
away,
Yeah.
get the
I
hell
Yeah,
am
out.
too. Yeah.
Even if
I agree.
someone told me once, it's better off. You better off, like being from
Yeah.
Chicago. You better off paying that tuition that first year, that first semester, than paying for
Mm-hmm.
lawyers. It's like, oh, you got me.
You
Sign
know,
me
the
up.
thing I used to
Like,
say all the
that was the
time
beginning.
was the if we weren't on a college campus, we might have been dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. In the
Right.
late '80s,
Exactly.
that's not a. And
Exactly.
late '80s, early
Yep.
Hmm.
'90s. You're
And
Yep.
not just
absolutely
because
right.
life was happening, but also because of how we were acting as college students. It's a good thing we
Mm-hmm.
were on a
Well,
college
that too.
campus.
Mm-hmm.
All
You
of that
know, I
Right.
couldn't
together.
imagine. I couldn't have imagined being a college freshman, say at DePaul, at Chicago
Mm-hmm.
State, being in the city of Chicago, being in downtown, trying to
Mm-hmm.
be a freshman in college, versus
Mm-hmm.
being on a college campus in a college
Mm-hmm.
town where
Mm-hmm.
everything was centered around that university. It was a totally different experience, I think, than it would have been trying to be an urban college student in the 80s.
Well, I now
Although John was in the
I
middle
mean,
of
you were
well,
doing
you
that,
were in the
nah.
cornfields,
Yeah,
Washington
right?
that's what I'm
D.C.
saying. We were in the cornfields. It was nothing there but the
Right.
college town. You were
Right.
in the
But see,
city.
for
for the
me,
half
I
of
was in
the
the city,
exactly.
but on campus, we had all of that going
You all
on though
still had a
still
campus,
around
though.
us.
You all still
Right.
had a
We still
campus.
had a
Most of the
campus.
Chicago schools, most of the city colleges and Chicago schools at the time didn't have a true campus like that.
Hmm.
You know,
Right. I
where you
agree
had
with you.
like
Hmm.
dorms and all of the
Hmm.
campus buildings. You all had a big chunk of land, just like we had.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
It's
hell,
just
right.
that
Florida
ours
Ave
was
was
plopped in
like
a farm.
off the hook
Yours was
back
plopped
Right.
then.
right in DC, right in
Right.
the heart of things. But you still had a
Right.
distinct campus. Same with Morehouse. You know,
Yep. Yep.
there were walls. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Hmm.
That's true. That's true.
Like that one.
All right, folks.
But that the question still remains around like the golden
Hmm.
ticket. College was for
Mm-hmm.
us, or at least I think we saw it that way. I don't know if it's a golden ticket
Yeah.
anymore. I think it's a ticket. I don't think it's
Right.
I
golden,
think it was kind of
and
tarnished for us
we have
too. I mean, honestly, some of the gold had already started rubbing off in many respects. You know, it might have been a bronze ticket or a silver
Mm-hmm.
ticket, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think now that bad fella is some nice dark wood.
Mm-hmm.
fun fact. Fun fact: the University of Iowa back then had no tuition for in-state students when I started.
Oh wow.
For in-state students, there was
And
no tuition.
Wow.
they didn't have tuition, and minority students were getting in law
The
school. When I talked to the dean of the law school when I was a senior, and he asked me what my LSAT score was, I told him. He said you can come on right now, no tuition. But they did the same thing at Illinois. That's why I stayed in Illinois. All of the minority students at that time got a tuition and fee waiver, so
Mm-hmm.
none of us had to pay tuition.
Mm-hmm.
that's
Hmm.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to pay
Yep.
tuition when I
No,
was
I
out of
said
state,
in law school
but
I
that
didn't.
point,
I didn't as an
oh no,
undergrad, but
no,
yeah, hmm,
but
yeah,
that's
it's gone.
gone, right?
It's those barriers.
So the government
Yeah.
ticket.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's I don't think it's the golden ticket that it was. I think it can be. I think it can be. I think it still is life changing. I see it all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I'll
Yeah,
just give this last example at this past graduation. So I can go back to like August 15th. We had 14th. We had at one of my schools, we got a lot of doctoral students, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of doc graduates. And I sent you guys pictures from the graduation. I met one of your
Mm-hmm.
frat brothers,
oh
and
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just that was the coolest part of it for me because these were new doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doctor of this and doctor of that. So I was just walking around the room saying congratulations, doctor, all day long to all of
Mm-hmm.
these black and brown faces. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's that taking it to that ultimate level. It was so cool. This one sister was walking down the hall and I said, congratulations, doctor. And she just kind of paused for a moment and was like, wow, it just got real. Just like that. And I was like, yeah, because, you know, they hadn't heard anyone. I was like, you've earned that, you know. But that's,
Right.
again, that's taking it to that extreme level. But the opportunity to celebrate with them that high level achievement is just so cool. It's so
Hmm.
cool. But that alone isn't reason enough to say, yes, it's the golden ticket. But for
Right.
me, it's the best part of the job. So we're going to wrap on this one because I think we touched on a lot of different things, but mentorship in whatever form is critical, right? We didn't necessarily experience it in its fullest capacity when we were coming up. We've had
Hmm.
opportunities, I think, to be mentors or to engage in mentorship ourselves, and the ultimate importance of it for our community, the benefit that it brings to the younger brothers, to the less experienced brothers who are moving into these positions, that we have opportunities to impact their lives. I think we should do it whenever we can.
Can I offer this? Can I
Jump on
offer
in.
this too? I think we need to develop a shared understanding by what we mean by mentorship,
Hmm.
because I think the more we talk about it, the more I realize that we don't I don't know that we all talk about the same
Hmm.
thing when we even use the word mentor or
Hmm.
mentorship, and maybe that helps
Hmm.
us
Yeah,
if we
because at least that
can be
can
more
align
intentional.
us on a path, right? If we're all thinking
Hmm.
of, if we're using this word, but we're doing five different things, then
Hmm.
it's not as an effective an effort. So I agree with you. For the audience, what does it mean to be a mentor? What do you think a mentor is? What have been your mentor experiences? Have you mentored? Have you been a mentee? What were the benefits that you got
Do
from it?
you need
Right.
one? Do you need one? Is it important to
Hmm.
you? Do you know of other people who think they need them? Right?
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
For the older brothers, who are you mentoring? You know,
Hmm.
if there are opportunities, are you willing to step up? What can you
Hmm.
bring to the table? What experiences do you have to add to this mix? You know.
Hmm.
because there's a lot of young people who be like, screw them
Right. What do you know? Right.
old, old head,
Right.
I've been that person too, because
yeah,
I've said this
old
a million
feet.
times, Greg. It's too many. Growing up in Chicagoland and looking at Chicago politics, especially, I've always said that the old heads are always trying to hold on to power for themselves and not doing enough of the mentoring, not doing enough of the
Hmm.
bringing the younger brothers along. They're supposed to be the advisors now, advising the young warriors to come in there and do their thing. And so I think
Hmm.
that's been a gap for us. I think politically in Chicagoland, I've seen that personally,
And otherwise,
and nationally we see that as well, right? We saw,
Hmm.
and the young folks have to be open
yeah,
to it
they
too.
have
Like
to,
Exactly.
that
It's a
opens up
two-way.
a whole.
hmm
Hmm.
yeah.
It's a
So you
two-way
gotta,
connection.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Well,
Hmm.
we thank you all for listening. We appreciate your comments when you write in.
We back.
And we won't be gone this long again. If we can, if God willing, we'll be around a little more in the future.
Inshallah.
Take care, everybody.
Great conversation. Take care.